Men in Black feels like a movie everyone already knows. The suits, the sunglasses, the flashy thing that erases your memory. But what most viewers don't realize is how many creative gambles shape the final product in ways that remain invisible to this day. Behind the polished surface lies a production full of last-minute changes, unconventional design choices, and performances that almost never happened. Some of these decisions were risky enough to sink the entire project. And it all starts with one question that nearly changed everything. Who would become Agent J? Number 1. The movie almost had a different lead. Before the role of Agent J became synonymous with one actor, the studio considered going in a completely different direction. Will Smith wasn't the obvious choice at the time. His biggest claim to fame was a sitcom, and executives weren't sure a TV star could anchor a big-budget summer blockbuster. Names like Chris O'Donnell were floated as safer, more conventional options that carried less perceived risk. The hesitation made sense from a business perspective. Smith had yet to prove himself as a leading man in film, and the project was already a gamble built on unproven material. But director Barry Sonnenfeld saw something others didn't. He believed Smith's natural charisma and comedic instincts were exactly what the role needed to balance the film's deadpan tone. Once Smith was locked in, his energy began shaping everything around him. The character of Jay became looser, funnier, and more spontaneous than originally written. Had the studio gone with a more traditional action lead, the entire dynamic of the movie would have shifted dramatically. That single casting decision didn't just define the film, it launched a franchise. Number 2. Tommy Lee Jones didn't like the script. Landing a seasoned actor for the role of Agent K wasn't as smooth as it might seem. Tommy Lee Jones initially had serious doubts about the screenplay when he first read it. The humor didn't land for him on the page, and the premise felt too absurd to take seriously. For an actor known for intense, dramatic roles, this was unfamiliar and uncomfortable territory. What changed his mind wasn't a rewrite or a persuasive pitch, it was a shift in perspective. Jones began to see that playing K completely straight, as if the character genuinely believed in the weight of his mission, would make the comedy sharper. The joke wasn't in K being funny, the joke was in K being utterly serious, while everything around him was ridiculous. This realization became the foundation of his entire performance. Instead of leaning into absurdity, Jones leaned away from it, creating a deadpan anchor that grounded every scene he appeared in. His early skepticism turned into one of the film's greatest strengths. Without that tension in the beginning, K might have become just another quirky mentor instead of an icon. Number 3. Edgar the Bug was too disturbing. Creating a memorable villain meant pushing boundaries, but early versions of Edgar pushed too far for comfort. Test audiences found the character genuinely unsettling in ways that clashed with the movie's comedic tone. What was meant to be creepy fun started veering into something closer to body horror, and that shift risked alienating the viewers they needed. The problem wasn't Vincent D'Onofrio's performance. His commitment to the role was exactly what the filmmakers wanted and needed. The issue was calibration. Certain moments lingered too long on the grotesque details of Edgar's deteriorating human disguise, and the effect became more nauseating than entertaining. The balance between horror and humor was clearly off. Small adjustments made a big difference. Editors trimmed frames here and there, pulling back just enough to let audiences laugh instead of cringe. The final version of Edgar remains unsettling, but in a way that enhances the fun rather than killing it entirely. It's a reminder that even the best performances need careful framing to land correctly with audiences. Number 4. The neuralizer came from the comics. One of the film's most iconic gadgets didn't originate in a Hollywood writer's room. The neuralizer first appeared in Lowell Cunningham's original Men in Black comic series, where it served a similar purpose, erasing memories to protect the secrecy of alien activity on Earth. The concept was already there on the page, waiting to be adapted for the screen. Screenwriter Ed Solomon recognized the device's potential immediately. In the comics, the neuralizer worked, but it lacked the elegant simplicity the film would eventually give it. Solomon streamlined the concept, turning it into a sleek, pen-like tool with a satisfying flash and a clear visual language that anyone could grasp. The result was something audiences could instantly understand and remember. What makes the adaptation so effective is how it serves both story and comedy. The neuralizer doesn't just solve plot problems conveniently, it creates opportunities for humor, misdirection, and even emotional weight. A small idea from a niche comic became one of the most recognizable sci-fi gadgets in cinema history, proving that great source material just needs the right translation. Number 5. The ending was rebuilt after filming. Test screenings revealed a problem the filmmakers hadn't anticipated. Early cuts of the movie had an ending that didn't quite land with audiences. They enjoyed the ride but felt the climax lacked the punch it needed to feel complete. Something about the resolution felt rushed or disconnected from the emotional build-up that preceded it throughout the film. Fixing a finale after principal photography wraps is never easy. Reshoots are expensive, schedules are tight, and there's always a risk of making things worse instead of better. But the team knew they couldn't release a film that stumbled at the finish line. Adjustments were made to pacing, structure, and even specific shots to give the ending more impact and resonance. The final version ties the story together more cleanly, delivering both spectacle and satisfaction in equal measure. Most viewers have no idea how close the movie came to ending on a weaker note. It's a testament to the value of testing and the willingness to keep refining even when the clock is running out on production. Number 6. HQ was bright, to avoid the obvious. Secret government facilities in movies almost always look the same. Dark corridors, flickering lights, and shadowy rooms filled with classified documents. The filmmakers behind this project wanted to reject that tired visual language entirely. Instead of going dark and ominous, they made MIB headquarters bright, sleek, and almost sterile in its cleanliness. The inspiration came from retro-futurism, the optimistic vision of tomorrow that defined mid-century design. Think clean lines, open spaces, and technology that looks approachable rather than intimidating. Production designer Bo Welch crafted an environment that felt both timeless and slightly ahead of its era. The result was a headquarters that looked nothing like audiences expected from a covert agency hiding world-changing secrets. What nobody anticipated was how prescient this choice would become. Years later, tech companies like Apple would embrace nearly identical aesthetics in their retail stores and corporate offices. The minimalist white walls and open floor plans that once felt futuristic are now everywhere in real life. The film accidentally predicted a design movement that wouldn't fully emerge for another decade or more. Number 7. Most aliens appear for seconds only. Dozens of alien creatures populate the world of the film, yet most of them barely register on screen. A glimpse here, a background figure there. It might seem like a missed opportunity to showcase elaborate designs, but this restraint was entirely intentional. Limited screen time for each creature was a practical necessity that became a genuine creative advantage. Building fully functional alien puppets and suits is expensive and time-consuming work. Showing each one for extended periods would have required more screen-ready details than the budget allowed. By keeping appearances brief, the production could create more variety without overextending resources. Quantity replaced duration, and the approach worked far better than anyone expected it would. The result is a world that feels genuinely populated. Viewers sense that aliens are everywhere, even when they can't study them closely. This technique also rewards repeat viewings, since new details emerge every time you watch. What started as a budget constraint ended up making the universe feel larger, more mysterious, and far more alive than it otherwise would have. Number 8. The Edgar suit limited movement. Bringing Edgar to life required more than just a great performance. Vincent D'Onofrio had to work inside a suit designed to make him look like a man whose skin no longer fit properly. The practical effects were impressive, but they came with serious physical limitations that affected nearly every scene involving the character throughout the production. Movement inside the suit was restricted in ways that weren't always predictable during planning. Certain gestures became impossible, and others looked awkward when attempted. The director and cinematographer had to adjust blocking constantly, finding angles that hid the suit's limitations while still capturing D'Onofrio's unsettling physicality. Every shot required extra consideration and patience from the entire crew. Rather than fighting these constraints, the production leaned into them. Edgar's stiff, unnatural movements became part of the character's identity. The alien wearing a human body like an ill-fitting costume was supposed to look uncomfortable, and the suit's restrictions made that discomfort feel authentic. Technical problems transformed into character-building details that enhanced the final performance significantly. Number 9. The guns were designed like toys. Action movies typically arm their heroes with massive, intimidating weapons. The bigger the gun, the more powerful the character appears to audiences. This film took the opposite approach deliberately. MIB weapons are small, strange, and almost laughably compact. The most powerful gun in the entire movie fits in the palm of your hand. This design philosophy served multiple purposes at once. Visually, tiny weapons subverted expectations in ways that generated both surprise and comedy. When Agent J receives his standard-issue firearm and compares it to his old service weapon, the joke lands precisely because audiences share his disappointment. The visual gag works without needing any additional dialogue to explain it to viewers. Beyond comedy, the small weapons reinforce a key theme of the story. Power in this world isn't loud or obvious. It's hidden, compact, and easily underestimated. The noisy cricket looks like a toy until it fires, and that surprise mirrors how the MIB organization itself operates. Underestimation becomes a strategic advantage, and the prop design supports that idea from the very first reveal. Number 10. Post-production ran dangerously late. Finishing a visual effects-heavy blockbuster is always a race against the calendar, but this production pushed deadlines further than most. Effects shots were still being completed dangerously close to the release date. Sound mixing, color timing, and final edits happened under enormous pressure, with almost no margin for error left anywhere in the schedule. The compressed timeline wasn't due to poor planning alone. Earlier production challenges, including the ending changes and various creative adjustments, had eaten into post-production time. Industrial Light and Magic worked around the clock to deliver finished effects that met the film's demanding standards. Every department felt the strain of a release date that wouldn't move no matter what obstacles appeared along the way. Despite the chaos, the final product shows no obvious signs of the rush behind the scenes. Audiences in 1997 had no idea how close the movie came to missing its summer window entirely. The pressure could have resulted in compromised work, but the team delivered a polished blockbuster against all odds. It remains one of the cleaner finishes for a production that nearly ran out of time completely. Number 11. Will Smith shaped Jay through ad-libs. Scripts provide a foundation, but performances often evolve once cameras start rolling. Agent Jay as written was funny and capable, but something changed when Will Smith brought his own instincts to the role. His improvisations added layers of humor and personality that the original screenplay hadn't fully captured on the page. The character started breathing in ways nobody anticipated. Director Barry Sonnenfeld encouraged this freedom rather than restricting it. When Smith riffed on a line or added a reaction that wasn't scripted, Sonnenfeld often kept the cameras rolling to see where it went. Many of Jay's most memorable moments came from these spontaneous additions rather than from carefully planned dialogue. The character grew sharper and more distinctive with each successive take. This collaborative approach meant that rewrites happened in real time on set. Writers adjusted scenes to accommodate what was working, and Smith's energy began influencing not just his own performance but the rhythm of entire sequences. By the end of production, Agent Jay had become something more dynamic than anyone originally envisioned. The improvisations didn't just enhance individual jokes, they helped define who the character truly was at his core throughout the film. Number 12. Jones played it completely straight. Comedy often works best when someone in the scene refuses to acknowledge the joke. Tommy Lee Jones understood this principle instinctively and applied it to every moment he spent on screen as Agent K. While chaos erupted around him, his expression barely shifted. While Will Smith cracked wise, Jones responded with the gravity of a man discussing matters of genuine national security importance. This approach wasn't accidental or passive. Jones made a deliberate choice to treat every line, no matter how absurd, as completely serious business. When Kay explains alien immigration policy or demonstrates bizarre technology, there's no wink to the audience anywhere. The character believes entirely in what he's saying, and that conviction makes everything funnier by contrast with the absurdity surrounding him. The dynamic between the two leads became the engine driving the entire film forward. Smith's energy needed somewhere to land, and Jones provided the perfect, immovable surface. Without that deadpan anchor, the comedy would have floated away into pure silliness. Jones gave the movie its weight, allowing Smith to provide the lift. Together, they created a balance that neither could have achieved alone on screen, no matter how talented. Number 13. Keeping the tone was a daily fight. Blending genres is one of the hardest challenges in filmmaking. This movie needed to be funny without becoming a parody, exciting without losing its wit, and occasionally creepy without alienating audiences. Director Barry Sonnenfeld spent every day on set walking a tightrope between these competing demands, knowing that one wrong step in any direction could derail everything completely. Each scene required careful evaluation before, during, and after shooting. A moment that played too scary might undercut the humor that followed immediately after. A joke that landed too hard might break the tension the story needed to maintain throughout. Sonnenfeld constantly adjusted performances, camera angles, and pacing to keep every element working together in proper harmony. The fragility of this balance only becomes clear when you consider how easily it could have collapsed entirely. Push the horror slightly further and you lose the family audience completely. lean too heavily into comedy, and the stakes disappear without warning. The final film feels effortless, but that smoothness hides a production where the tone was negotiated scene by scene, sometimes take by take, until everything finally clicked into place perfectly. Number 14. One scene exists due to exhaustion. Filmmaking is physically demanding work, and even the most dedicated crews eventually hit their limits. During production, there came a point when cast and crew fatigue became impossible to ignore any longer. Rather than pushing through with diminishing returns, the filmmakers made an unexpected decision that changed the structure. They created a quieter scene that gave everyone a much-needed chance to breathe. The result was a moment of calm amid the film's otherwise relentless pace. Instead of action or spectacle, the scene focused on character and conversation. What began as a practical solution to exhaustion became something that actually improved the movie significantly. The pause gave audiences time to absorb what they'd seen before plunging back into the chaos waiting ahead in the next sequence. Pacing in blockbusters often suffers from a fear of slowing down, even momentarily. Studios worry that audiences will lose interest if explosions stop for too long, but this film proved that strategic pauses can enhance rather than diminish excitement levels. The quieter moment made the action surrounding it feel more impactful by comparison. Exhaustion accidentally taught the production a valuable lesson about rhythm and restraint that benefited everyone. Number 15. Chemistry was found in the edit. On-screen partnerships that seem effortless often require significant behind-the-scenes work to achieve. During filming, the dynamic between the two leads was promising, but not yet fully realized in its final form. The magic that audiences eventually saw came together later, in the editing room, where choices about timing and scene order transformed good chemistry into something genuinely iconic and unforgettable. Editor Jim Miller played a crucial role in shaping how audiences perceived the relationship between the characters. By adjusting the rhythm of conversations, trimming pauses, and reordering certain moments, he found the sweet spot where every exchange landed perfectly. The actors provided excellent raw material on set, but the edit refined it into something far greater than the sum of its individual parts. This process reveals how much of movie magic happens after principal photography wraps completely. Performances that feel spontaneous and natural are often the result of careful assembly from multiple takes and angles. The partnership at the heart of this film wasn't manufactured artificially, but it was certainly sculpted with precision and care. Without that editorial craftsmanship, audiences might never have connected with the duo quite as strongly as they ultimately did. Number 16. Background aliens followed one rule. Extras in most films blend into the scenery without much direction beyond basic positioning. This production took a different approach with its alien background performers. Every creature visible in the frame, no matter how briefly, received specific behavioral guidelines designed to make the world feel consistently realized and alive. The rule was simple but effective. Every alien had to move and behave as if they belonged to a distinct species with its own physicality. Random fidgeting or generic human gestures were discouraged entirely. Instead, performers were encouraged to develop small, repeatable quirks that suggested a biology and culture different from our own. This attention to detail extended even to creatures who appear for mere seconds. The payoff becomes apparent on repeat viewings. Background characters that initially seem like visual noise start revealing patterns and personalities the more you watch. A figure in the corner of one scene might exhibit the same unusual posture as another alien glimpsed earlier in a different location. These connections reward patient viewers and make the film's universe feel genuinely thought through rather than hastily assembled for a single shot. Number 17. One line explains, the secrecy world-building in science fiction often requires lengthy exposition to establish the rules of a new universe. This film avoids that trap almost entirely. One of its cleverest moves is a single line of dialogue that explains why the existence of aliens remains secret from the general public, answering a question most viewers don't even realize they should be asking. The line comes and goes so quickly that many people miss it entirely on first viewing. Agent K briefly explains that humans, as a species, tend to panic when confronted with information they're not ready to handle. The implication is clear. Secrecy isn't about distrust or control, but about managing collective psychology on a massive scale. It's world-building disguised as a throwaway remark. What makes this approach so effective is its efficiency. A lesser film might have dedicated an entire scene to justifying why the conspiracy exists at all. Instead, the explanation arrives in seconds, trusts the audience to absorb it, and moves on without lingering. This kind of confident, economical storytelling is rare in blockbusters, where the temptation to over-explain everything often overwhelms restraint. The line does its job perfectly and never asks for applause. Number 18. Edgar moves like a real insect. Creating a villain who feels genuinely alien requires more than makeup and prosthetics. Vincent D'Onofrio understood that Edgar's body language needed to communicate something fundamentally inhuman. His solution was to study actual insect movement and incorporate those observations into every gesture, twitch, and stance he performed on camera throughout the production. The result is a character who moves wrong in ways that are hard to articulate but impossible to ignore. Edgar's head tilts at odd angles. His limbs seem disconnected from normal human coordination patterns. He holds stillness too long, then moves too quickly, mimicking the stop-start rhythm of a cockroach navigating an unfamiliar surface. These choices were deliberate and researched, rather than improvised randomly. Dialogue alone couldn't have achieved the same effect. Many of Edgar's most unsettling moments happen without words at all, relying entirely on physicality to convey threat and otherworldliness. D'Onofrio's commitment to this insect-inspired performance elevated what could have been a generic monster into something memorably disturbing. The creepiness doesn't come from special effects or soundtrack cues. It comes from watching a human body behave in ways that feel fundamentally wrong on a primal level. Number 19. The ending shrinks the whole story. Final scenes in blockbusters typically aim to send audiences out on a triumphant high note. This film does something more ambitious and unexpected. Its closing moments pull back to reveal that the entire Earth, and everything we just watched happen on it, exists inside a marble being played with by gigantic alien beings in a realm beyond our comprehension. The reveal works on multiple levels simultaneously. As a joke, it lands perfectly, deflating any lingering self-importance the story might have accumulated over its runtime. But it also functions as a genuine philosophical statement about scale, perspective, and humanity's place in a universe far larger and stranger than we typically imagine. The punchline has real weight beneath its humor. Thematically, this ending ties back to everything the film has been exploring from its opening scenes. The MIB organization exists because humans can't handle the truth about their cosmic insignificance. The final image literalizes that idea in the most extreme way possible, turning existential dread into a visual gag that somehow feels earned. It's the rare comedic ending that actually deepens the material, rather than simply capping it off with an easy laugh. Number 20. The best joke is never spoken. Visual comedy requires trust. Filmmakers must believe that audiences will catch a gag without having it explained through dialogue or emphasized with obvious camera work. This film contains several moments where humor emerges purely from what's shown on screen, with no verbal acknowledgement that anything funny is happening at all in the scene. One of the most effective examples involves background details that contradict or comment on foreground action without any character noticing or remarking upon it. The joke exists entirely for the viewer who happens to be paying attention to the right part of the frame. If you miss it, the scene still works perfectly fine. If you catch it, you feel rewarded for your attentiveness. This approach demonstrates remarkable confidence in the audience's intelligence. Many comedies underline every punchline, afraid that subtlety will cause laughs to be missed entirely. This film takes the opposite approach, trusting viewers to find humor on their own terms and in their own time. The result is a movie that stays funny across multiple viewings because there's always something new to discover, hiding in plain sight around the edges. Number 21. The film was a one-shot gamble. Studio thinking today often treats potential franchises as guaranteed multi-film commitments from the very beginning. Sequels are planned before the first movie even opens, and creative decisions get made with future installments already in mind. The original Men in Black benefited from a completely different mindset that allowed it to take risks sequels rarely permit. When production began, nobody assumed this would become a series spanning decades. The studio treated it as a standalone gamble, a weird sci-fi comedy that might work or might disappear without leaving any lasting trace. This uncertainty meant the filmmakers had freedom to make bold choices without worrying about preserving characters or situations for future exploitation down the road. That creative liberty shows in the final product. The movie feels complete in itself, with no loose threads dangling obviously for sequels to pick up later. Everything serves the immediate story rather than some larger corporate strategy. Ironically, this self-contained approach is precisely what made audiences want more in the first place. By not trying to build a franchise, the filmmakers accidentally created one that audiences genuinely wanted to revisit again and again. Men in Black succeeded not because it played things safe, but because it made counterintuitive choices at nearly every turn. A TV star instead of a proven action lead, a bright headquarters instead of shadowy corridors, tiny weapons instead of massive arsenals. Each decision seemed risky at the time, yet together they created something that still feels fresh, inventive, and endlessly rewatchable almost 3 decades later. What emerges from these behind-the-scenes stories is a portrait of a production under constant pressure that somehow never lost its creative instincts along the way. From last-minute ending changes to exhaustion-induced scenes that improved the pacing, the film turned limitations into advantages repeatedly. The restraint and clarity that defined the final product didn't happen by accident. They were fought for daily by a team that refused to settle for easy answers. If you enjoyed learning these secrets, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the films you thought you knew. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below.